You've probably heard this before. Work more hours, make more money. Simple math, right? But here's what almost nobody tells you. The extra income from overtime might be quietly costing you far more than it's giving you. Not the hours themselves, not the exhaustion, the trade you didn't realize you were making. Today, we're diving into one of the most normalized financial habits out there, one that looks like discipline on the surface but might actually be working against you. We'll look at the math, a fictional case study, and the psychology behind why so many hardworking people fall into this trap without ever noticing. Welcome to TAFA Finance, where we explain investing concepts in a simple way. By the way, this video does not contain any financial advice. Let's start with the assumption almost nobody questions. More hours worked equals more money earned, and more money earned equals more wealth built. That logic feels bulletproof, but it quietly skips over two things: what that overtime income actually costs you in other areas of your life, and what you could have built instead with that same time. Here's the part that surprises almost everyone the first time they see it. Overtime income often gets taxed at your highest marginal tax rate, since it stacks on top of your regular income. That doesn't mean overtime is a bad deal by itself, but it does mean the extra hour you worked pays you less per hour than your regular hours do, once taxes are factored in. And here's the opportunity cost nobody talks about. Every hour spent on overtime is an hour not spent building a skill, networking toward a promotion, or managing your money properly. Time is the one resource you can't get back, and overtime quietly spends it on the lowest leverage version of your income, your hourly wage, instead of the highest leverage version, your career trajectory. Let's put this into a fictional example. Meet James and Chris. Both are 26 years old. Both start at the same company doing the same job, earning a base salary of $55,000 USD a year. James decides to maximize his income by taking on as much overtime as possible. For the next 10 years, he consistently works extra hours, earning roughly $12,000 USD a year in additional overtime pay. Over the decade, that adds up to about $120,000 USD in extra income earned. But James is also exhausted most of the time. He relies heavily on takeout because he has no energy to cook, spending roughly $300 USD a month more than he otherwise would. He rarely has the bandwidth to negotiate raises or pursue promotions, since all his energy goes into simply getting through the week. His base salary barely moves, rising only with standard annual adjustments to about $58,000 USD by year 10. He also barely invests, contributing only about $100 USD a month, because between working and recovering, managing his finances never becomes a priority. Chris takes a different approach. He works his standard hours and uses the extra time and energy for something else entirely. He spends part of that time building skills relevant to his industry, and part of it managing his money and staying consistent with investing. Over 10 years, that focus helps him negotiate 2 solid promotions, growing his base salary from $55,000 USD to $85,000 USD. He also invests consistently, putting away $500 USD a month into a low-cost index fund the entire time. Let's fast forward 10 years. James earned about $120,000 USD in extra overtime income over the decade, but once you account for the extra spending on convenience, the stalled salary, and the almost non-existent investing, his actual investment portfolio sits at around $18,000 USD. Chris never worked a single hour of overtime, but by year 10, his investment portfolio, built from that steady $500 USD a month, has grown to roughly $92,000 USD, assuming an average annual return of around 8%, in line with the long-term historical average of the stock market. and his base salary is now 85,000 USD a year, compared to James's 58,000 USD, meaning Chris's future earning power is also significantly higher. Let that sink in for a second. James worked more hours, earned more raw income from labor, and ended up with less wealth and a lower salary. Chris worked the same hours as everyone else and ended up ahead on every measure that actually matters long term. This isn't about overtime always being a bad idea. Sometimes it genuinely is the right short-term move. It's about understanding what you're actually trading when you consistently choose extra hours over everything else. Now here's where it gets interesting, because there's real data behind this, not just a fictional story. A well-known study led by Stanford economist John Pencavel found that productivity per hour drops sharply once someone works beyond around 50 hours a week. And employees who worked 70 hours a week produced roughly the same total output as those working only 55. In other words, a huge portion of those extra hours weren't actually generating proportional value for the worker or for the employer. This is the sneaky trap. Overtime doesn't attack your finances directly. It attacks your time and energy, the two resources you'd otherwise use to build higher leverage income, like a promotion, a skill upgrade, or a consistent investing habit. Trading your highest leverage resource for your lowest leverage form of income is a bad exchange, even when the paycheck looks bigger. And this is where most people make the second mistake. They assume that because overtime pay shows up immediately, it must be the more valuable option compared to something slower and less visible, like career growth or compound investing. But immediate and valuable aren't the same thing. Let's talk about why smart, hardworking people keep making this trade anyway, because this isn't really a math problem. It's a psychology problem. First, there's the certainty bias. Overtime pay is guaranteed and immediate. A promotion or a new skill is uncertain and takes time to pay off. Humans are wired to prefer a smaller guaranteed reward over a larger uncertain one, even when the uncertain option has a much higher expected value. Second, there's the busy equals valuable mentality. Working long hours feels productive and responsible, and it's often praised at work and at home. Spending that same time reading, networking, or reviewing your finances doesn't carry the same visible reward, even though it may build far more long-term value. Third, there's decision fatigue. After a long shift of overtime, there's very little mental energy left to negotiate a raise, apply for a better role, or thoughtfully manage money. Overtime doesn't just take your time, it takes the mental capacity you need to make higher leverage decisions. So how do you actually apply this? Decide your overtime ceiling now, before it's offered to you. How many extra hours a week are you willing to work before it starts eating into the time and energy you need for career growth or financial planning? Decide that number today, not in the moment when extra shifts are dangled in front of you. Decide where your time is actually worth the most. If an hour of skill building or networking could eventually lead to a raise or promotion worth far more than your overtime rate, that hour is more valuable spent there, even though the reward isn't immediate. And most importantly, decide what happens to any overtime income you do earn. If it just gets absorbed into convenience spending, you've gained very little. The only way overtime pay actually builds wealth is if a meaningful portion of it gets redirected into something that grows, not into recovering from the hours you just worked. This is really the same lesson that shows up again and again in investing. It's never about the big dramatic decision. It's about consistently choosing the option with the highest long-term leverage, even when the smaller guaranteed option feels more comfortable in the moment. Because here's the truth. James isn't a bad person for working overtime. He's just making a trade without seeing its full cost. Most people never sit down and calculate what a decade of overtime actually costs them in stalled career growth and lost investing time. It's not visible. It doesn't show up on a pay stub labeled cost of not building your career. It just quietly disappears hour after hour, year after year. And that's the real danger here. Not that overtime is always wrong. Not that you should never take extra hours. But that consistently trading your time and energy for the lowest leverage form of income without ever weighing the alternative is one of the most common financial mistakes hardworking people make. So next time overtime is offered to you, don't just ask what it pays. Ask what else that time could be building instead. That single question, asked honestly, could be worth far more than the overtime rate itself, and that's all for today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, are you more of a James or a Chris right now? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.